Well, good evening and welcome to the first ever Bald Headteacher Podcast presented by me, Jeremy Barnes, aka Bald Headteacher. And I've already failed the fact-checking exercise because I'm no longer a head teacher with effect from this summer. But I think it was Winston Churchill who said that there is no one in Britain with as much power as a British headmaster, I think he said then. So I'm going to use that power. I'm going to call myself a head teacher still. I am absolutely, definitely still bald. That hasn't changed. Well, I'm not a serving head teacher anymore yet, but I am working with head teachers pretty much every day in my new role within the Pope Francis Catholic Multi-Academy Trust in Merseyside. And we're kind of striving to set up an embryonic trust. And I suppose what we're doing is responding at the moment to what we're having to live through in society. In my view, really quite unparalleled change, remarkable change. I always say to people, I feel like we're living in the eye of a hurricane. Everything seems to be normal and calm, and yet all around us, it seems to be tempestuous. It seems to be turbulent. And my guests today know more about that than anyone, I suspect, in Kyiv. So the more I speak to colleagues, the more I'm convinced, I really am, that the old norms seem to have gone. The contracts between the family and the state, between school and home, between government and constituent, it's kind of really fraying at the edges. It appears to be something very, very different. And at times, it kind of worries me, really does. So I thought for the first episode, possibly the only episode, we'll just have to see. It is a pilot episode. But I thought for this episode, let's focus on this concept of solidarity. It's something I do feel very strongly about, because I think we need solidarity. We really do. We need it more than ever. We need to stand together. The end of this week, as we get towards the end of this week, I've been inspired very much by two things. First of all, on Saturday, I attended the annual gala dinner of a charity called An Hour for Others, a remarkable charity. They really are. I've been involved with them since 2013, since their inception. And I'm probably wrong using the word charity, because Kevin, who is the founder of the charity, he always says, and he said it during the night, he said, it's not a charity, it's a movement. He says, it's not a charity, it's a movement. His core belief is spreading this message of solidarity. If you're down, if you're needy, we're there for you. We're giving an hour of your time, an hour for others, whether it's painting or decorating, through teaching or through mentoring. We stand with you. We stand with our neighbor. We're there to help you, no questions asked. He hates this idea of a kind of consumer culture. And he gives the example of somebody phoning up the charity and saying, are you the guy that does the painting and decorating? Could you come and do my room? No. I'll do the painting and decorating, but I want you on board. What are you going to do for your fellow neighbor? Because that's the concept. That's the movement. And I think he's got a real point there. And as I was researching for this podcast, I came across a fantastic quote from the Uruguayan writer Eduardo Galeano, who said, I don't believe in charity. I believe in solidarity. Charity is vertical. It goes from top to bottom. Solidarity is horizontal. Mm-hmm. It respects the other person. So maybe, Kevin, I'll get you on a future episode of the podcast, because he speaks so passionately about how to change Liverpool. And then on Sunday evening, my second inspiration, my Sunday evening was with Kevin's words ringing in my ears. I was there at Liverpool Airport and meeting a group of pupils and staff from Kyiv. And Olena and Katya are here with me now as my guests, and it's fantastic to have you. It really is. It's a long story. It dates back to the Eurovision Song Contest in Liverpool a few years ago. And ever since then, I felt a real sense of solidarity between Liverpool and Kyiv, and between the schools that we've been working with. I think it's probably noteworthy also to mention, apart from those two examples, that we are doing this podcast this evening in Southport. And I always remember an act of tremendous solidarity after the terrible tragedy of the 3 children who lost their lives, and after the disturbances that happened in the town as a result of that. There was a wonderful act of solidarity of people repairing walls that had been damaged during the disturbances, the rubbish, the way in which the town looked, or those streets looked after those disturbances, neighbors supporting each other. So it is beautiful that we're in Southport, where that act of solidarity took place. And before I introduce my guests, I suppose I should just say a little word for our listeners, because I suspect a lot of the listeners are going to be connected to education. And my belief in solidarity, can I just say a little bit about my belief, because it is a real strong belief. I think it's an immersion I've got probably through Catholic social teaching. It's probably something that has been there all the way through my education, through my own life. And a Jesuit priest, again, came up with a beautiful quote that I just want to repeat for everybody here. He said that solidarity is learned through contact rather than concepts. When the heart is touched by direct experience, the mind may be challenged to change. And I do think that has been my experience. And I think it's something we can learn in education, that it all starts from human relationships. Everything comes from the heart. And our leadership in schools, in education, we must start from that direct experience, not from policy, not from rubric. I think George Bush Jr., I think he was quoted as saying that when he became president, he thought it was all about policy. And when he left the White House, he realized it was all about relationships. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to start with solidarity. That's the theme of our first Bald Headteacher podcast. And so to my first guests, to Katya and to Olena. And I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and tell us about your journey. Let's start with you, Katya, because you were there right at the beginning, weren't you, with the Eurovision Song Contest?
Yes, at the very beginning. So, my name is Katya, and I'm an English teacher in Kyiv, in Novo-Pecherska school. And this week we brought 11 kids in Liverpool, in Southport. And we started in 2023 with the project United by Music. And that was an amazing example of solidarity and support, and something special, something unusual that our students could experience on those times, because it was like already the year has been in process, and the students, when they were singing those songs, like
Don't judge a book because of its cover.
Because of its cover, yes, and the way they were preparing for that, with those video calls, and when students were asking them questions about how they feel, what do they like? Different questions. They felt like somebody cares about them, and somebody thinks about them, and they.
It's that human relationship, isn't it? It's
Yes,
it's what did I just say there about the learning through contact. I mean, it was a distance. It was over the internet, but it was still a contact rather than a concept. And Olena, tell us a little bit about this week. So what was the background to this week, and how did you get here, and so on?
So again, the background was Katya's story about your previous project, and she was so inspired and passionate about that. That inspired me too. So we wanted to have something like that, something that you used to have before. So we met you, and that was amazing, because I realized that it would be the beginning of new friendship, new contact, which is going to be not just between us teachers, but also between countries and schools. So we decided to come, and we did. And we are very happy to be here, because this is all about our students, and we can see them really happy, and they are all very inspired, excited about being here, about meeting new students. And that's amazing how tiny our world is, because the students, the children, they are the same everywhere, and even if they don't speak the common language, somehow they find common ground, and that is the thing that inspires us the
And
most.
the common grounds yesterday was the 6-7 thing, wasn't it? I don't know how to do it. As soon as they started 6 in class, they all started doing it, didn't they? And how did you get here? Tell us about your journey from
Physically.
Kyiv. Yeah.
It's been a long road, yes, a long trip. So we took a train. We took 2 trains actually to get from Kyiv to Slovakia, to Košice, and we had a flight. So it took us some time, but we are finally here.
Yeah.
We are very happy to be here.
Around like 26 hours it took us to come here. So yeah,
Well,
it wasn't easy.
I hope it's been worth it. I really do, because we've absolutely loved having you, and I know the children in the schools have. We were in one of the schools this morning, and some of the questions that those children, the year 6 children, were asking about your experiences during the war. It was like you could just hear a pin drop. It was incredible. What do you think, international visits, international links like the one that we've got through this week, how important are they in education, in your view?
Invaluable, precious. And these are very strong words, but in fact it is like that, because all those visits, they teach children not just English or some academics. This is much more beyond all that, and they are taught very important life skills, and they are taught how to make new friends, how to make connections, how to build bonds. So I think that that's the most important thing.
And moments of awe and wonder as well. I remember when we took some children to Seville a few years ago, and a child was in the Alcázar in Sevilla, and he just turned to me and he said, "Sir, this is beautiful." It was just a moment of pure joy that child will never forget for the rest of his life. Really. What about yourself, Katya? How important are they to you?
Well, extremely important, I think, especially as our trip is not just a trip to visit some sites, of course. So it's an educational trip for our students. And they benefit not just from listening to English language, what is very important, but again, meeting new friends, feeling like support that they've heard these days. A lot was told about how are you, how is it going in Ukraine, and all those stories when we go to the shelter. And so we saw in the eyes of the people who were listening to us that they feel our pain.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very important, and kids appreciate it as well.
Yeah. Let's just move it on to talking about solidarity in the situation that you're going through at the moment in Kyiv. Is there a lot of solidarity between people in Kyiv going through the obviously the situation that you're in at the moment?
Yeah. So for sure, since the war started, we united a lot. So we didn't feel ourselves so united since I don't know which time. So we had to stand together in order to stay resilient and resistant to all the difficulties we face. So, of course.
Mm-hmm. Olena?
Yeah, totally agree. And I would say that we always stood together, but unfortunately, such tragical situations like revolutions or wars, they reveal a lot of interesting aspects and facets of our society and relationship between people. And some people who never felt Ukrainians or who never felt that bond and connection, they just fled or disappeared, and they don't care. But those who are real Ukrainians, they are so much united, and that solidarity. This is something that we all feel, and this is really important. And it's sad that sometimes you need to get into a situation like that to understand how much it is important just not to be alone, not to be in your own solitude, but to be together with the like-minders and people of your nation and your family and friends. Yeah, but that we are all together. That's true, and we all feel that.
So we've got a kind of, I'm speaking from my own personal experience here in watching the news and so on, but I remember Boris Johnson, coming onto the news and we stand shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine, and then subsequent Rishi Sunak and so on. It's been very much this sense that UK is at your side. We are standing in solidarity with you. Is that your experience? Is that what do you feel that particularly from the UK, or is that from all other countries around you?
Definitely, we feel that, particularly from the UK, from the other countries too, but from the UK particularly, yes. So even the fact that we are spoken, that you mention us, that you talk about us, that what I hear a lot from my friends from the UK and some people from education, because the educational world is very small, so we are all connected. And all the time people say that they are praying for us, that they want the peace come to our land. This is very important. So, and of course, we got a lot of support politically and in terms of weapon and some other financial aid. So, of course, it is very precious.
Yes, and your president was in London, wasn't he, this week? So he made the journey just like you did. Obviously, this is an educational podcast. Our primary focus is going to be around education. Katya, what have you noticed this week around the English education system? Is there anything that you've seen in the schools that has particularly caught your eye?
Yes, definitely something caught my eye. So, and we've discussed that with Olena, that two things stood out. The first one is the discipline that we couldn't have not mentioned. So it was.
Well, the bad discipline.
No, it was amazing discipline. So the question is that the rules they follow. So we also have rules, of course, but it's quite difficult to make them follow those rules, unfortunately. Sometimes it comes to negotiation. And that's the thing that I do not like about the rules, because they cannot be negotiated. The rules are the rules, specifically because you have to follow them without any discussions, you see. And the thing that, well, specifically once when we saw and observed our students running around the playground, and then they heard the whistle, and everyone freezed, of course, except ours. So everyone freezed. Well, that's because they are just not used to, let's hope for that, to freezing because of the whistle. And looked at the teacher, waiting for the instructions. They heard the instructions and they continued doing what they were expected to do. And that's the amazing thing. And
interesting, that negotiation point. I hadn't thought about that because, there's no sort of, I just need to go and put something away, or can you just give me 10 seconds more, or I just need this. There's no sort of negotiation. They just do it. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So the rules. Yeah. Anything from yourself, Olena? What have you noticed? Yeah. Sorry, you were going to say two things, weren't you? What was the second?
The second, maybe Olena would say the second thing. Okay, the second thing is acclimatization or something like that. That is about the attitude to the weather and the way the students, wear clothes, appropriate clothes to the weather. From our side, we would put more clothes on them, and the hat and the scarf, and I saw kids running in skirts and shorts without any tights.
And you were thinking they must be freezing.
Yes, I was freezing. Yeah. I saw them freezing, but they were like, okay, they were running, playing football, and they were having fun.
Okay. Do you know what? That is really interesting, because I would guess that people listening here who are English educationalists or teachers in schools, or I could go and talk to teachers and they will say, discipline's not good. It's getting worse. And also our children are not hardened enough. They are too fussy and they complain too easily, and parents complain too easily. That's probably what they would say. So maybe it's all relative, isn't it? Anything you noticed, Olena?
Yeah, it's all relative, and it's always really nice to compare some things to other countries or other cultures. And so I totally agree with this discipline issue. It's amazing that this is what fascinates us a lot, and also our students mention that and they notice that because it's really interesting to listen to them comparing the students and the schools. And so all the time they were talking about new friends and students. And what they said today that, they're all so well-mannered and they follow the rules and they're so organized. They're not like us.
Mhm.
So that was very self-critical, and that probably was a good sign of self-reflection,
It could be that it's just schools that I work with, of course,
Yeah. And also,
They are fantastic schools, I have to say.
yeah, what I noticed is little technology, which is really great. So, of course, your classes are equipped with the TV sets and boards, and the students have some pieces of technology, which is amazing, but they do not rely much on that.
No.
And that's, so that's amazing. I think that we should try to reduce the amount of platforms, apps, and digital tools.
Of course, it's today, I think, talking about international education, I think it's today when the law comes into effect in Australia, where they're banning social media for kids under 14 or under 16.
16,
Under 16.
Yes, heard that.
Now, that'll be interesting to see how that rule, if you like, that law is rolled out. What are your views on that? Is social media a big problem for kids in Ukraine, just like it is here?
It is. So the phones are banned in our school, so they cannot use telephones at school. But they're provided by the tablets,
Mm-hmm.
and they are supposed to use them for educational purposes. But unfortunately, they, as we already mentioned, try to overcome some.
Bend the rules.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But we keep our eye on that and don't let them to use it too much. Yeah.
Well, before we sort of wrap this up, I must ask you your kind of your own personal experiences, I suppose, of these last few years since the invasion. How has it affected you personally? I think you were telling me, Katya, earlier that you had to go move to another place for another year, didn't you?
Yeah, for half a year.
I mean, just sort of give me your own personal reflections of how has it been over these last 4 years.
That's that's difficult, of course, to put it in one or a couple of sentences, because since the war started, we were thinking that would take like 2-3 days, then 2-3 weeks, 2-3 months, and now we are like the fourth year of war, and we had to decide what to do on our first day of invasion, and I have a child, and I had to think about my child first of all. That's why we moved to the western part of Ukraine, and I'm very thankful to our friends there living there. That they welcomed us, and we stayed there for half a year. We didn't have enough like clothes with us or stuff with us. But we had to adapt somehow to life there, and in half of the year we moved back, and we tried to accommodate ourselves to the life in Kyiv in those months. Yeah, so it wasn't. I remember the time that in September when we came back, 2022. So it wasn't so harsh. So it was like kind of slight. Well, you understand that it wasn't so severe in those that months. But coming closer to winter, it started harder and harder, and then the electricity cuts and our fear of heating, that we won't have heating in our flats. So yeah, that's what we face now.
Olena, Any personal reflections?
Yeah, I would say we became more flexible and we have to adjust to new circumstances and everything changes frequently. So you never know what is going to happen tomorrow. So you have to adapt, you have to adjust. And this is what we all do. We obviously became stronger and more resilient. And my personal reflection is that we probably stopped taking things for granted. And now we realize that we had so many basic things before which we didn't value at all. But now, when we have hot water or electricity, or we can spend a quiet evening with our family without explosions and, things like that, that's the only thing that matters after all, So, of course, it changed our lives completely, but such things probably taught us how to value all those little things. So we're just trying to find some positive things in all that. Yeah, and of course, life goes on, and we continue.
And by the way, the first thing that Koля mentioned, yes, the one of the kids when we came to one of the schools.
The first school, probably.
Yeah. So how is it going? Of living in Ukraine, and he said we've got used to it, right? So and that was everyone was shocked,
probably, yeah. But this is our reality. We just got used to that, and that's a really bad thing to get used to. But we have no choice, so we have to go on, continue, teach children, be strong for our families.
Absolutely, it's a bit of a slight difference to what we were talking about before, where we were almost saying that there was a lack of resilience when you were talking about the weather, but that's anyway. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really do appreciate it. So, Katya, you talked about your experience in those immediate weeks after with your child, and Olena, you mentioned there the importance of flexibility. So tell me a little bit about how that has impacted on the wider education system, both in those first few months and in the subsequent 4 years, the impact on children, the impact on the education system. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, okay, I can. Of course, the impact is dramatic. And now we have aftermath of all that. So we have to deal with the consequences. But I think that we are quite successful as teachers, not just us personally, but the whole system of education. It wasn't probably ready for that. But very quickly, somehow, we put everything on the right track and we continued. And of course, that's a huge problem because we lost a lot of students. They went to other countries. They had to leave Ukraine, and that's clear with obvious reasons. But a lot of students, they came back. And we have a lot of what we call educational loss, if you have a term like that. Because obviously when they were not able to study for a certain period of time, or they went to other countries and they had some issues with education, but then they came back. So we have to somehow level all the students, and that is challenging. But I think that we coped with all those difficulties.
Yeah, we had a thing called catch-up after the COVID pandemic, and there was a big sort of catch-up, and extra tuition was put in by the government to try to support that catch-up.
I would like to comment on the previous question about the loss and gaps, because I was teaching in a different school those days, and it was a state school. So in our case, we fell out for a month. So we didn't have any lessons. But then we had to come back to the lessons, to teaching, and we had to contact all our students and ask them to come to the online lessons, to join the online lessons. And unfortunately, many of them fled to the distant parts of Ukraine, and they didn't have either computers, either the good internet connection or the gadgets to use, even the phones sometimes. So we had half of the class who couldn't take part in educational process, unfortunately. And so we had somehow to deal with that. And then we learned the phrase like in the educational gaps. So now we face those educational gaps when we have to catch up, yes, because of some students, they didn't have an opportunity to continue studying. So that's the situation from different perspectives.
And I mentioned before I mentioned this morning with the children about the basements. So this concept it's reality that the air raid siren goes off and the children go down into the basement area where there are rooms available for the children. You take all the books with you. And has that affected the teaching in any case, in any shape or form? It must be much more difficult to continue to deliver the lessons in that situation.
It's torturous, to be honest. Yeah, because we have to stay at the same place. This area is packed with students. So the school is quite big and we have more than 500 students. But after the air raid, we all are just located at the same small area. And you can imagine that there is year 5 teaching math and right close to them, year 6 students are sitting and they have, I don't know, English lesson and year 7 has PE. So it's all happening at the same time. Yeah.
So you've got PE next to maths next to English.
They play chess. Yeah. Sometimes they play chess or sometimes they play with a ball. So they try their best, Yeah.
So you've got all this peripheral noise going on around you, and you're trying to deliver your inputs or whatever.
So it is very challenging, both for students and for the teachers. But we understand that if we have no lessons, our gaps, they get bigger, and it's going to be harder to catch up. That's why we continue.
Do you continue the same timetable?
Yes.
So the timetable just goes underground, basically.
Yeah, the system tells us when the lessons start, when the lesson finishes. So we hear the bells, and we just move from class to class. They stay at the same place, and we just teachers, we move from class to class and continue teaching.
In this huge, massive space.
Yeah.
And you just move around to each other. Right.
And sometimes it's like zero preparation because, as I told before, they have just to leave everything. It depends on where they are. So if they're in the classroom, they can grab their things like tablet, books, their backpack, and go downstairs immediately. And if they're in the canteen, they're not allowed to go upstairs and take their stuff. So they have to go down in the basement without anything. Sometimes they come without even...
Without a pencil.
And pencil, yes, of course, we've got everything they need, like pencil, paper, and stationery, the basic stationery for them in the basement. But, for example, to continue what I've prepared for them to do in the classroom, I cannot. So I have to adjust, and
it's all about being flexible.
That's why you got to innovate. That's incredible. And the longest time that you've had to do that for, what was that? Go on.
6 or 7 hours.
Yes.
6 or 7.
6 or 7 again, yeah.
6 or 7 hours. No, and you've got virtually no materials.
No materials.
Do they get a break? What do they do with the break time? Do they just sort of walk around the hall?
Just walk around. Of course, they had some snacks. We're very lucky to have lunch because we have a secret lift or something that brings us food. So that magic happens even during the air alerts. Yeah, but that was very challenging. They go crazy. They cannot stay, downstairs for such a long period of time. They get tired. There is no fresh air. So
I think you were complimenting the English behavior. I think even the English behavior would start to struggle with that as well, wouldn't it? So this is extraordinary. I mean, I'm trying to think about the impact on a young child of this up, down, up, down, up, down. And then they go home, and then there's an air raid siren. They go to, we have pastoral assistants in school. We have more and more people actually supporting mental health in schools. Have you had to expand the amount of people that give professional support for children, given the impact of some of this, what they've had to withstand?
We didn't expand the staff. So we had psychologists before the war started, and we have them now. But we had a lot of training, so they gave us their professional support on how to talk to children. And especially, it was very challenging in the beginning because you never know whom exactly you're talking to. If it is a child who was relocated from the territory that was destroyed completely, or if it was the child who lost his parents, both parents, or just the father, for example, or a mother. So we had to be very careful, and we were trained how to talk to them, which topics to try to avoid and which topics to raise. So that was quite challenging. But now I think intuition helps us, and we are in the same boat, and we know how to talk to them, and we know that there are bad days and good days. And also it's all about solidarity, because when we all come back to school after an awful night full of explosions and fear and destroying houses and everything, again, that brings us together, because we start communicating about the terrible night. How was your sleep? Did you manage to sleep? Did you hear a lot of explosions? How was it in your area? So that again brings us together, and that's a bad thing to talk about, but still it gives us all a lot of topics to discuss.
In the same boat. You've got such a great command of idioms, both of you. You really have English idioms. But in the same boat, of course, has a link to solidarity. Not that I would, for once, suggest that we are in the same boat as you at the moment, because what you're going through is quite remarkable. And to continue educating the pupils, to continue this running of your schools throughout this period, you have my utmost admiration, and I know the utmost admiration of all my colleagues that you've seen this week, and no doubt people who are listening today. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being my first guests on Bald Headteacher Podcast. It's been fascinating, really has been, and inspirational to listen to you. So I go back to that. It's contact, isn't it? The contact that we're getting with you now, that's how we develop solidarity. That's how the heart responds. And that's how I hope people listening to this in their own schools can respond, because that's what we need. I do worry that our education system has tipped too much towards a marketplace, too much towards competition. And it's eliminated a lot of those points of contact, those points of solidarity. And and we're in danger, if we're not careful, of weakening the bonds of solidarity between. There are so many different groups that have got a stake in education. And they all need to be working together. They all need to be connected together. They all need to be in that contact. And I'm convinced we need more of that. I really am. Or as Kevin would say, this movement. So that is that. The first episode of the Bald Headteacher Podcast is done. If you'd like to read more, then go to the Bald Headteacher website. There's lots more there, both on solidarity, lots of other stuff. If you've got any feedback, then please leave a message. If you've got any ideas about future guests, ideas about the format and so on. This is being videoed as well, so it's on the YouTube channel. So please subscribe, and please also recommend it to other people. We're wanting to build a movement here. We really are, and I want you to be part of it. Listeners, viewers, once again, thank you to my guests.
Thank you.
And it's been fantastic having you. And I think from all three of us, have a great Christmas, and I wish you the very best for 2026, and everybody in Kyiv, the very best for 2026, in all of Ukraine. Keep the faith. Bye-bye.